Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Chemaissem. Today's topic I'll be discussing with you guys is how I reversed Hashimoto's. For the ones that don't know what Hashimoto is, it is similar to people that have suffered with an overactive or an underactive thyroid dysfunction. Hashimoto per se is more so of an overactive and underactive thyroid dysfunction that is happening all the time. Now, the diagnosis that I had was roughly 7 to 8 years ago, as my journey began with feeling really lethargic, uneasy, and not myself for a little while. During that process with getting checks with doctors and whatnot, they came to the realization that I had Hashimoto. So I needed to see an endocrinologist for to run more bloods and to see my hormone levels. And through that, they made a conscious choice by putting me on a medication called Oroxine. And the doctor was trying to monitor my body through this process, and he kept upping up my doses. I wasn't really happy with his feedback. I did my own research. I wasn't happy with the fact that they told me that I need to take this for life because this is a life condition. I refused to accept the label that they put me through. And so my journey began there. And with the process of my journey, I did a lot of self-research, and I also went to go and see a Chinese medicine doctor. Now, during that journey, I was having a lot of hot and cold flushes throughout my body, and I wasn't really enjoying how I was feeling. It was as though every time I got up in the morning, I had a set of bricks all over my body. So I was challenging and pushing myself continuously through that process, and it was day in, day out over the course of the years. And during that process, at one point, I had begun to lose my voice, and it became quite husky. And I wasn't sure if that was the Hashimoto or if it was the medication side effects. According to my endocrinologist, he refused to believe I was having any side effects from the medication, even though I was having over 80% of them. And so I went on to my own self-healing journey, I suppose, and started utilizing Chinese medicine. That did not play out really well for me, to be honest. The Chinese medicine ended up having a rare parasite that almost took my life. It was not something that I enjoyed. Through the endurance of being in ICU and having my heart stopped and come back to life, it was a difficult journey, I must say, but I kept persevering. And something that I remember during the journey, especially when I was in ICU and I was consciously aware of my surroundings as I was waking up, this one doctor had told me something, or this nurse, and he turned around and goes, "You're a fighter, Sarah, and you'll be able to go through this. We're not sure what's wrong with you, but we'll figure it out together." Now, along that journey, it took them 6 weeks to discover, after I had been sort of stable and went back home and was discharged from the hospital, that it was a rare parasite that had come through to Australia from the Chinese medicine that I had taken that almost took my life. And it takes roughly 6 months to heal just from that parasite, to be killed completely in your stomach. So then I've now got Hashimoto that I'm trying to reverse somehow or get rid of. And in that process now I've got to heal from this parasite that almost killed me. Just so I can get rid of one thing, I was now troubled with another thing. During this time and the whole journey, I had a lot of ups and downs. I did have my struggles. There was a lot of stress involved. And then I just woke up one morning and said, no, that's not the way it's going to be. I'm not going to live with this disease or these symptoms, and it's about reversing it. So I went on to my journey and started to discover the right foods to eat and the foods to stay away from. And I found a lot of contradiction online with a post. I had a lot of things saying that you should not, and you should steer away from broccoli and cauliflower and all that because it provokes Hashimoto. And then it went on to say other places and resources that I found that if you do eat these foods, this will help minimize the hormone levels in your body and reduce those symptoms that you're going through. So there was a lot of controversy and so much contradictions out there during my process of learning and figuring things out, until I stumbled across, and I don't believe anything is by chance, by the way. Everything happens for a reason. And I stumbled across a medium named Anthony Williams, and I managed to find him through Tony Robbins, for the ones that know who Tony Robbins is, through one of the seminars, the UPW seminar that I did with him. And then that's when my journey really did begin. I bought all his books. I managed to read 3 of his books. One was about your thyroid, the other one was a liver rescuer, and the third one from memory was called Heal Yourself or Heal Your Life or something like that. I'll put that in the notes later on. I managed to read all 3 books, kid you not, in 3 days. Read them inside out, highlighted them, put notes, and then I went out on my adventure to purchase everything that I could find and get my hands on in that moment. And I traveled wherever I needed to travel to get certain vitamins, minerals, foods to begin this journey of healing. I was so adamant that I was like, this is it. This better work. And personally, my heart and my mind felt really attached and congruent with the information that came through, as opposed to the Chinese medicine and everything else that I tried and failed on my own. During that process and journey, he went on to say, Anthony Williams, that it's a process of roughly 3 months. But he did also mention somewhere in the book that you must trust your body and trust yourself. So knowing that I believe in intuition and to follow your own gut and intuition, I followed my own body and made a conscious choice that I will allow this journey to be anywhere between 6 to 9 months. I'm not sure why I put that number down, but I just did. And he had a set of rules from A to C. Or A to C, and I decided to follow it from C, B, A instead of A, B, C, because it was just too difficult to do it that way. And I wanted to slowly transition it and allow it to adapt as a part of my life and my lifestyle, as opposed to doing something to fix something else. And I took this and adapted this in my everyday life, and the journey took me 9 months. Just before the reach of 9 months, I had weaned myself off the oroxine that I was taking over a course of 4 months. So I was 4 to 5 months into the dietary changes, and I began my weaning off process, and I prolonged that over a course of 4 to 5 months as well. The reason why I did that, I felt like my body needed to know how to adapt according to what intake I was processing and absorbing inside my body while it's weaning off the medication. And it worked for me. And during that time, when I finally weaned off, I went to my GP and did some bloods to see what was going on with my TH3 and TH4 levels. She had concluded that your body is actually stable and it's working, so whatever you're doing, do not stop. She was quite encouraging, and mind you, for a GP to be so open-minded and holistic, I was very blessed and lucky to have someone like that to help me through my journey. And during that time, I started to feel a bit of a drop. And the moment I felt the drop is the moment I was like, oh no, is everything going wrong? I've stopped the medication at this point. It was 10 months in. I was feeling a hype. I had my energy back. I was up in the morning. There was no more bricks on my body to drag myself through those challenges. And now I'm having a drop. It was a sense of devastation, a sense of failure, and I must say I had a bit of a meltdown and cried, how did I manage to get this far and then go backwards? So I remember that day really clearly when she had called me to tell me, I went actually that morning to do some bloods when I felt so crap, and that the next day or the day after that, she called me up that morning to tell me that your TH levels are really out of whack. So I'm not sure if you're still doing what you were doing before and you've changed something, but it's either you go back on the medication or you see an endocrinologist again, which is something I completely was refusing, or maybe you do half and just accept what it is. I said, no, I'm not accepting this. And I had my moment of emotional tears and feeling like I was let down, not so much from the world and the cosmic world and what's been written for me, but I just felt like I did it to me. So I blamed myself. And as I was driving to work that morning, bawling my eyes out, I called a close friend of mine, and I explained to her what was going on. And then she went on to say, but hold on, Sarah, what is it that you want right now? And I go to, well, I don't want Hashimoto. And then she goes to me, yeah, I understand that, but what do you actually want? And I went on to say, I don't want Hashimoto. And then she's like, okay, I get the concept. You don't want Hashimoto, but what do you want instead? And it was in that moment, her words just hit me. I was doing it wrong all of a sudden. I was focusing on the freaking problem. My focus was what I don't want as opposed to what I do want. And in that moment, you can call it a light bulb moment. I go to her, I understand it now. Close the phone. So she closed the phone. I wiped my tears and I'm like, the past 2-3 weeks, I was focusing and my whole focus was I've just weaned off this medication and I'm free, but then I'm free from Hashimoto. So I was just focused on the actual problem that I was trying to reverse, supposedly, not realizing it wasn't really a problem. The problem was, it was what I started my journey. It was a lifestyle change. And I just fell back by accident into my old structure and my old belief system that I've got an issue and I got to address the issue. But it's not the issue that I needed to address. It's the way I perceive my own life and the way I should live my life as opposed to the issue. So my focus needed to change from here to there. And in that moment, I'm like, okay, so I'm going to test something. I'm going to focus again back to the lifestyle, make sure I'm on this diet really well. And the diet consisted of being vegan, which I didn't have a problem with. It consisted of avoiding any consumption of sugar or lessening the sugar in your body. So I did a replacement from white sugar, or we used to have raw sugar at home, to monk sugar and coconut sugar. So I was trying all the natural sources of sugar. I did, mind you, have some withdrawal symptoms at the beginning on this diet, so that's normal. But I was like, I did sort of slack off on my diet at one point. I was like, oh, I'm free, it's okay. And I went back to my old belief systems where I can eat all of these things. And it's in those moments is when I had that drop. And that's when I realized that's where I went wrong. So I went back to the way I should perceive everything, and I began to focus on what I did want, and that was my health. My health should be my top value for me, because if my health is not at the top of that value, my family will fall apart. It's not about me anymore. It's about them too. And it's not being selfish to put myself priority, because if I'm down, they're all down. So I took that into perspective and I went on board again, wiped my tears, walked up that staircase, finished my clientele that day, felt really super empowered, went back home, changed the way I perceived life and my own thought systems and my beliefs, as opposed to having a belief that had a problem I was trying to reverse. And I kept moving forward. And after 3 days, I went and did another blood test. And this time, I was testing it through how I was feeling. And I did it when I was feeling really hyped up that morning. The bloods came back after 3 days. To my surprise, my previous results was 15 TH level. I think it was 3 or 4, and it dropped to 7. 3 to 4 days to 7. Now that's something. I did that. No one else did that. The medication never did that. The medication was anything like an antidepressant where it just puts you on pause. It doesn't even fix the problem at its root. It just fixes the symptoms of the problem. And the problem is really still there. So when you stop the medication, your issue is going to arise again. So I was like, so this is a game changer. It's all in the mindset to some degree. So it's the consumption of food that plays a role. And then it's my emotional mindset. But I need to bring down the other 7 to bring it down to 3, because that was the normal level. So I needed to bring it down for another 4. How am I going to do that? And I went on board and did a bit more research, and through a theory in life that I believe in really, that I've called EPS, so emotional, physical and spiritual connection. If you don't have all 3, you're not in sync with yourself, and there is something missing. So the only thing that I realized that was missing for me was my spiritual side. So I began to build my spiritual connection with a higher source. In my case, I believe in God and a creator of all the world. And when I began to manifest that energy of belief and abide by that and do my prayers and continue that journey, within 2 weeks, I felt I was on top of the world. And I went back to the doctor and I did another blood test. Guess what then? From 7, it was 3.2. It was sitting where it needed to sit. In that moment, I gave that doctor a big hug and a kiss. And I felt so proud of myself, of my own accomplishment, and any self-doubt that I had during that process of healing all left. And it was in that moment I realized that not only Hashimoto, but any other disease or label some doctor can put on you can be reversed to some degree. Okay, I'm not going to call it a cure, but I'm going to call it a reversal. And understanding behind the symptoms of why or how or what provoked you to even have that problem to begin with. Because sometimes we go to the doctors asking them for help for symptoms of just emotions and they can't help us. And they tell you it's anxiety. But anxiety is not touched. Anxiety is not seen. Anxiety is only felt. It's a conditioned belief, a fear that's contracted by something you've imagined in your mind that hasn't even happened yet. So they go on to send you to a psychologist or a counselor, whatnot, to help you through that process because there's no medication. And if you're just always feeling down, they're going to give you medication, not to fix the actual issue, but to put the issue on hold because you can't deal with life. And that's how Hashimoto was. That's what it was. It was a symptom of something for me. And in my case, I had discovered that Hashimoto for me, and it could be different for everyone, yeah, because we're not all the same. It was my voice. I felt that my voice wasn't heard. And to some degree, somehow, my body had malfunctioned one part of my organs, which was my thyroid, to express my voice wasn't being heard. And hence why my symptoms started to become of my own awareness. And I went on a search to the doctors to say something was wrong. Now, this is not the case for everyone, but this was the case for me. And the moment when I realized all these little pieces and puzzles that I had put together along that journey of discovery of how to cure this or reverse this or whatever it is you want to believe, or to get rid of these symptoms, is sincerely the moment that I realized that I can speak up. And I did. And every time I was holding on to some emotion, I spoke. And every time I spoke, I no longer had the husky voice anymore. And my voice was being heard. Whether my voice was being understood wasn't the issue. It was I wasn't being heard. So I began to speak. And now I'm speaking to the world. And I'm speaking to my clients and to my friends and my family and everybody else out there. That yes, your voice needs to be heard. It may not be understood, but the moments that you are heard, anything is possible to create change. Just the way I manage to change my own outlook and my own health and have a stabilized health, feeling, a sense of energy, excitement, this great vitality that I feel, this urge in my heart and my soul to just keep giving in life and just giving and serving, was fulfilling my own values and my own belief systems and the way I perceived the world. And it worked for me. The question is, sincerely, whatever your journey is, what is stopping you from outgrowing your own fears or blocks or diseases right now? And I'm not going to say that we are the creators of our own disease, because that is only correct to some degree and some circumstances, not everything. And the ones that it is, yeah, I believe that it could be based on some emotions, but not fully emotions. It takes also your physical health, how you take care of yourself, how you look at yourself in the mirror, how you perceive yourself. who you believe you are, the consumption and food that you actually digest. What are you putting in your system? There is a saying out there, you are what you eat. Take that as truth. It plays a big dynamic and role in your whole body and the way it functions. So if you are what you eat, and you are what you believe and what you think, and you are your own higher energy and self, what are you waiting for? If you're lacking one of these, or you're doing one of those three incorrectly, then it's time to start soul searching to what's real for you. And yeah, change is uncomfortable and it sucks. But guess what? That's the only time when change happens, is the only time where your perception of your own world changes. And yeah, you might drop some friends and you might see family differently to how you saw them before. But it's not about changing who you are. It's about changing how you see the world as opposed to who you are. And in that process, you discover who you are. And when you do discover that, you can outgrow and overcome anything in your life. Power to the mind, power to the soul, power to your physical body. So that was my journey that I really wanted to share with you guys. And if you do have any questions, if you are interested to know any further details, I'm more than happy to help. Please shoot me an email or you can give me a buzz, and I'm happy to send all the resources that I've had to use along the way, and you can find your own resources as well to add to your journey of healing, whether it's mental health, physical health, emotional health, whether it's spiritual health. It's a journey we're all on. And it's in the moments that we fulfill each part of those three journeys, our emotional, physical. So it's in the moments of finding ourselves through the journey of our emotional, physical, and spiritual health is the moments that we find ourselves and who we truly are. So I hope this video has benefited some of you in some way in light of your own new choices and belief systems that you choose to take on board from here on. Please DM me. You can give me a buzz. My details are on my website, and I'm more than happy to help you through the process of your healing journey. And once again, thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate your time to actually listen to my own healing journey. Thank you once again. Love you all.